out comes Paulie Dangerously wearing a sombrero.
What is this bit? Paulie Dangerously and
so what
he just
this
comes out
is
and racially abuses a giant.
So Phoenix, Arizona is near the border, isn't it? So
Right.
I think they have that thing of going, there'll be a lot of people with Mexican heritage in the audience.
Yeah, so a
let's
heel gimmick
bring
would
out-
be racism. A heel gimmick would be racism. Yeah.
Simple racism.
Yes.
The good news is my name is Paul E. Dangerously, and this is the Danger Zone. The bad news is I work undercover for immigration, and all of you illegal aliens that smuggled across the border are all under arrest tonight.
In honoring the heroes that inspire us and family members that support us every step of the way, WWE is proud to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month.
So take your velvet painting collections and take your refried beans and get back over to Mexico.
And out he comes in a sombrero. That sort of costume that like people who sing mariachi music who come from table to table annoyingly, especially when you're like on holiday. that's where it would happen.
Presumably in Spain or Mexico.
Usually in Spain. And out he comes, and then El Gigante comes out. Now, El Gigante being South American, I think there was the sense of, if you didn't like that racism, then look, you've got a big one of your lot.
Of your lot.
And he's going to set everything straight.
Yeah.
So out comes El Gigante. The real big mistake they make in this whole section is the commentators never once go, look at this monster of a man. Look at this absolute giant.
Yeah.
But they go, this young man. Young man. He's like fucking Bigfoot. You're not going to mention that.
It's an Argentinian monster.
You know, oh, have you met my hairy boy? Yeah, it's an orangutan. You can say orangutan. Look at this young man. That's El Gigante. He looks, he's fucking 30 foot tall.
Look at this boy. That's your car, Stephen. What are you talking about?
Do you like these? Well, are those ecstasy pills? I'm going through difficult times. I dare say you are. Paul Heyman has a line where he goes, "Don't be looking behind me. I know that's what you Latino people do all the time."
Oh, it's just endlessly awful,
It's
isn't it?
So we do homophobia as well.
Oh, is that what that is?
I presume so.
Right.
I didn't think it was like stealing a wallet. I thought he's
I
like,
just
"Don't look at
guessing
my
a joint
bum, you bummer." Isn't it? It's that level of...
it's confusing,
Oh,
isn't
you
it?
Mexicans.
Yeah.
This for me is, again, one of those sections which is a little bit like what people who don't like wrestling think wrestling is like.
Yeah, and it is in this case.
And it is. It's just a man going, "Are you gay? Are you gay?" to a monster who is looking strange and not quite in
My God. My God, that would be something.
Wonderful if that's how this bit had ended.
Him and Carly.
With just El Gigante hearing the word, when he says, "Don't be looking behind me," El Gigante just suddenly putting both thumbs up, cheering, and bumming Paul Heyman into the mat. Marvellous.
I'd like that. And to be honest, if we're talking about gay interest, the cover for this particular pay-per-view is very gay interest. It looks like the aforementioned Tom of Finland kind of thing.
They're in military camouflage. They've chosen three sort of people, which is really strange. Ric Flair obviously going, well, I'm not going to be a part of this for whatever reason. And rather than go with the good guys who you traditionally put on like a video, they've got Sid, Barry Windham and Arn Anderson.
Yes.
And Arn Anderson gets injured in the interim, so he's replaced in the match. But you get the three of them wearing camo and sort of like army helmets. And the funny thing about it is I suppose like pornography and wrestling shares one thing in common, which is
bad costumes.
Bad
uniforms.
Cheap. So you
sniffies.
go, look, we're only using this once. We're only using this once for Ramon and whoever he brings in from the bus terminal. So you're not going to go, let's make sure it looks really good. So they are just basically sitting there. When I picture it, and I'm sure this is wrong, I picture like one of the helmets being plastic. But they've got that thing of going, what is military camo? And sort of going, I don't quite remember.
Don't really know. Like, just get the grease paint, get the green grease paint, and then everything else.
Pre-internet, you couldn't just go military makeup.
Yeah,
but if someone said, right, paint your face like a soldier now, and without any reference, you go, oh, now I've seen this a lot.
And then I'd go black and white like a Newcastle United shirt. Like that's not what they look like.
Isn't
look
this
like a magpie.
Isn't this what they call dazzle camouflage? I
dazzle.
believe that there is a black and white camouflage.
Oh, is there? Right.
Yeah.
To dazzle.
I don't know what it's used in. Again, the internet's not in front of me. I found myself getting too deep into this, not knowing it was going to come up, and now I'm in trouble.
I always have a little computer with me. I can't Google anything at the time, but Mark always...
Is your computer the one that Alexandra York uses?
Okay, Jim Ross, thank you very much. And we are all very excited that the month of March begins the WCW Rolling Thunder Tour 91. It's going to be quite an event. Now, that event, of course, is in conjunction with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Mr. Hiro Matsuda is here with us, and it's going to be quite an event coming to the Egg Dome.
Tony Schiavone then talks with Hiro Matsuda and the Great Muta afterwards. The two of them, they're just, after this Paul Heyman and El Gigante section, the two are like the most dignified businessmen you've ever seen in your life.
I thought he might be still with us, Hiro Matsuda. I think his real name is Kojima, but he died.
Yes. Well, he's, again, a pro in this. He just basically comes out and he mentions that 50,000 people are going to be watching this show. It's a strange one, that it does make WCW bigger, but it also throws into stark relief that they can't draw more than 6,000 people, 4,500 paid for this show.
Jeez.
And they couldn't pull a crowd in. You got the Japanese guys turning up and going, we're going to have 50,000, 10 times.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. He also, Hiro Matsuda, begins tapping Muta to kind of go, do your thing.
Do the green shit everywhere. But he's got his eyes closed. I don't know whether that's his thing, but he just looks jet-lagged.
He does look very jet-lagged. I was very excited when he did the mist, because I have finally seen how the mist is done.
Right, yes.
Which I was delighted about. It was in one of the links on the Patreon newsletter where Great Little Muta, who was a former of diminished stature, going against Little Abdullah.
Diminished stature sounds like he was taller at some point.
We don't know.
We just don't know. But we don't know. That's
they have an inept match.
Right.
And one of the things that Little Great Muta wants to do is blow the mist. And instead of being able to rip whatever is in his mouth convincingly, he just pops it out.
Oh,
and it's a little bag that sticks
bag.
out. Yeah, and he has to pop it back to try and scrape it on a tooth so he can then blow his mist.
Right.
And the Japanese audience, they all see it and they all just go, really warmly,
silly.
Look at the little boy.
I'm going to get some of that green mist and spit it everywhere.
I still don't know what's in it.
Oh, no. I mean, it'll just be poster paint, miserable. It'll be miserable, disgusting tasting poster paint.
What could someone like Muta feasibly get easily? Because you wouldn't sort of go, I need it to be something tricky. It's not going to be like chemicals, because they're difficult to get.
Would you have to green
it's probably just
food colouring and flour?
It's felt tips, isn't it? Steep that, like you take the top off and you get the felt bit out that's got the ink in. You just stick it in some water, warm water, shake it up.
Oh dear,
spit that in your face. Bang, bang, bang. Let's have a strange match that comes out of nowhere and gets over like you wouldn't fucking believe. This is the match between Miss A and Miki Hanada. Oh, sorry. Do you know what? The hardest thing on this is they get the names wrong of everybody again and again and again.
And they mix up the names. They get confused about who is who. It's Itsuki Yamazaki and Mami Kitamura against Miki Handa and Miss A.
That's right.
Miss A?
Yep.
Try and find that on fucking Google, because I can't.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Miss A would become one of the most important Japanese performers of her generation.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And she changed her name pretty much after this match. You would have seen a million things she's been in. She disappeared after this, but that's because she changed her name.
Right.
I hope we can pronounce their names, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to give it our best shot.
They come into Imperial Music, the bad guys from Japan from the early 19th century. The equivalent would be if you were a British performer and you were a bad guy, you'd always come into sort of like, drum, dum, dum, dum. That's Star Wars. No, what am I trying to do? There we are. That's it.
You'd have a big flag and you'd be going, fuck off.
And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that would be as lazy as doing this. But then I was thinking, that's what they did with Steve Regal all through his career. William Regal used to come out to that every single like British wrestler, even up till about 2012, would come out to. That was Antiques Roadshow. That'd be a great thing to come out to.
Wrestling merchandise special.
But then you get sort of plinky modern Japanese sort of like synth rock music to go, these are like the young people that you can like. They're not like the old evil Japanese.
Yes. Even though everyone in this fucking match is wearing the worst clothes I have ever seen in a wrestling show.
Amazing, aren't they?
The worst clothes. Where did they get them from? The worst clothes.
The Japanese wrestlers have a thing where they quite early on cottoned on to the fact that female performers could stand out. And they basically went, we're not just like female wrestlers, we're also from space. And all of them had a vague sort of sense of going, I am from the future, come back to kick another woman right in the chin. And they were great. I mean, the Mami Kitamura, again, I'm terrified because I'm about to talk about them doing bad. Mami Kitamura, they each of them have a go at her name. JR, Dusty Rhodes, and the ring announcer Gary Michael Capetta. They all do what I do, which is they start very confidently and suddenly they'll break in the middle. Yeah, they go, please welcome Mami Hamura. Jim Ross does the best ones where he goes, Katamura. Like when people do when you're doing a foreign word that you're a bit nervous about.
Yeah.
Itsuki Yamazaki and Mimi Katamura.
Itsuki Yamazaki and Yumi Katamura. The one can I pronounce? I just stay with Miss A, okay?
That'll be
I'll just talk about Miss A. I think that's the easiest thing for me to do here because in Texas, we don't have anybody named Cookie Yamasaka.
Can I come to Japan and have some sake, some sushi, and some sake? And then he's like going, you can tell that he's getting excited about going on a trip.
Yeah,
and then
really
he goes, I'll talk about it later.
So one of them is Itsumi Yamasaki. And Itsumi Yamasaki, she would retire in 1991, but she was a huge pioneer. They never mentioned this on the commentary, but she was one half of the Jumping Bomb Angels. Wonderful fucking name.
Yeah.
She was a tag team partner with Noriyo Tateno, and the two of them went to the WWF in 1987. They were like nothing that we'd seen before. They were like two Dynamite kids, and women's wrestling, certainly in the WWF, was moolah. It was quite boring wrestlers like Leilani Kai. But they were big, and what they would do is they'd throw each other by the hair around. Then one of them would cheat, and they'd win. These two came in, and they were like two Dynamite kids. They were proper wrestlers, and they would run rings round these big, older American wrestlers, and the crowds loved them. So the Bomb Angels, they were there from mid-1987 until the summer of 1988. To show you what the scene was like, they only wrestled a single tag team, and they were the Glamour Girls, Judy Martin and Leilani Kai, and they wrestled them for a year. They wrestled them at least 60 times because there was no one else. They had one other match. They had one match against Sherry and Rockin' Robin. That was it. And there was one pair of singles matches where the Jumping Bomb Angels individually took on the Glamour Girls.
Right.
So considering they had no opponents, they still just became this huge sensational act, and they were the first successful Japanese tag team to come into the WWF, you know, male or female. She was a really, really key member of this incredible explosive style. And they don't mention that at all here. They're just like, it's another one of these four women you've never heard of. And it's a real shame. She retired, as I say, at the end of 1991. She lived for quite a long time in New York City, where she had the restaurant Go Sushi.
Yes.
It closed in 2013. The other legend in there is Miss A. And Miss A, she is brilliant in this match. She is the person who gets the crowd into it by just kicking Yamasaki again and again and again as hard as she can.
Oh,
Wow. Listen to those kicks to the face.
maybe I better not get you a date with her.
I don't think you need to. Man.
Now, she changed her name after this match to Dynamite Canai. And Dynamite Canai is one of those performers of this glory years in the mid-90s. Along with Aja Kong and Manami Toyota and Bull Nakano. They were just brilliant, groundbreaking, innovative wrestlers. And anything that you see from that mid-period of JWP is 100% worth watching. You can just watch it for yonks. She retired in 2016, but you see in this how amazing it is, how really great people get over, even though they get about 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
And Miss A, Dynamite Canai, does exactly that. And it's just astonishing.
And the commentary team are actively reveling in getting the names wrong. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they become... It's a funny thing because what they're doing here is they're putting a match here in front of a load of people in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a very hard thing when you go on a pay-per-view to go, here are four people that you do not know. You've never seen them before. None of them are going to be turning to you and going, why don't you shut your mouth, you great big fat okie? Why, I wouldn't come to Phoenix if my ass was on fire. Or whatever it would be. But they don't do any of that. They just have to get themselves over in the purest way, which is by wrestling. And the way they do that is Miss A does it by being particularly violent. And that makes you go, she's the bad guy. The reality is the crowd just go, this is fucking thrilling. When she begins kicking her, they're a bit like, was not expecting that. That is the hardest thing we have seen all the time. Some huge reactions for her doing kicks and forearms. Really exciting. Dusty Rhodes says a line which absolutely means nothing. Minihanda just got kicked in her. Handa, he says, which is sort of like,
Honda? Did he go for Honda?
Mickey Honda there, I think.
Oh, Mickey Honda just got kicked in a Honda.
The crowd love this match. There's a really, really good reaction when it ends, but the crowd also sound like surprised by how much they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing about you take four anonymous people, this match should not have worked, but they obviously knew their work rate was going to get them over. And bloody hell did it ever. I mean, it's just put this match on, women wrestling from Japan. You've got this big Japanese show coming up. Now, I know no one from Phoenix, Arizona is going to be going over there, but it is going to be available on pay-per-view. And so it is a surprise. They didn't go, well, let's get 2 people from New Japan to have a match.
Yeah.
Show people what to expect. Get one of them over. They don't do that at all. They just go, and if you enjoyed that, you'll never see them again. Someone we will be seeing a lot more of in the next match, which is Dustin Rhodes versus Buddy Landel. I mean, the nepotism is very, very thick and strong with this one.
Yeah.
Jim Ross is sitting next to the Natural's dad. Jim Ross is also effectively 1 pay grade beneath Dusty Rhodes, so he is technically his sort of boss. And Dusty Rhodes is just saying lines that are just like, agility-wise, he can match Buddy Landel toe-to-toe, hold for hold, fifth for fifth. And there's a funny thing about being the commentator and you're also his dad, but there's no one going, but Buddy Landel could win this, he's a crafty old veteran. Everyone's just going, wow, Dustin. Oh, wow, Dustin.
Okay.
And you can imagine if you were any other wrestler, you'd be back listening to that just going, when I get to the office next week, I am going to stick my thumb in this young man's eye.
It's just the way that, like, Dustin Rhodes isn't great here, and he just knowing the moves isn't enough.
Yes,
like,
very
he
true.
knows the moves, but you've got to string them together with something. And when you see that, you understand that, yes, he's done wrestling, and he's got the physicality, I think, that lends itself really well, really long, not stringy. But yeah, I think he's in a situation where he needs a little bit more craft.
He's quite hard-hitting. And I slightly have a thing of, I think you're absolutely right about that. He doesn't have the ability to put it together. But I think he sort of goes, so long as it looks really
hard,
like I go in full, no one will ever go, oh, he's shit. They'll just go, God, he's hard, isn't he?
Yeah,
Doesn't he hit him hard? And you can see in this, he does some clotheslines and stuff that are really like, fuck me, I haven't seen one of those since. There are some thumping great moves in this.
Yeah.
And Buddy Landel in this, I mean, it's a strange position to be in where you've sort of gone, I'm back in WCW, and I believe he's going to leave because of a drug problem. It becomes a bit too much. You do sort of get the impression that, I suppose this is the moment where if you're Buddy Landel, you slightly break, where you go, this is the Booker's kid, and he's going to go over me really quickly, and he's going to hit me really hard in the ring for no apparent reason.
I'm expected to sell a really bad dropkick.
Yeah, and Buddy Landel actually, again, in this, he's very good. Funnily enough, having seen that Japanese match, when he comes out doing that very trad 1970s, 80s and cocky heel, where he's constantly talking to the audience and stuff, I actually thought, there's a lot of art in what he does, and I kind of warm to him the more I see him being just like smeared all over the floor and, wrapped up in 3 minutes, and everyone just going, well, he managed to beat him, but he's going to have harder people to face than that crock of fucking shit. It's
How
all...
dare you? I've been
I
here for
am
ages.
Buddy Landel, the original asterisk nature boy.
You gotta be careful, the doggy don't bite you. I don't know what that is. I don't know why he says that.
No, and then I tell you what, you got to watch him. When you back a dog into the corner, you got to be very careful that it don't bite you.
I love my son. Again and again.
Turning the winds against us.
I think later on it did transpire that they had a slightly unfamiliar relationship in the early days. I think Dusty had had a second marriage, and I think Dustin had been slightly out in the cold. And this was very much Dusty's way of making things up to his young man. I'm going to make you a star that everybody in the locker room hates. and he did it. I mean, Dusty Rhodes, a great spotter of talent. I think his last tweet before he died was talking about, one day you're going to be seeing Becky Lynch. This girl is good enough to headline WrestleMania. Probably not that on the nose. But he was just a great spotter of talent.
Yeah.
And it's a shame in a weird way that he's most famous for the talent that he spotted was his own son. I think, his NXT thing showed that he would go on to really just take on a whole generation of talent and really push them. I think I just want him to be alive, and I want to give him a hug.
Oh.
But I don't think he'd like that.
No.
Get your jerk-ass hands off me.
You transfer my rings.